Okay, it is 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, January 15th, the third Thursday of the month, early this month because the month started on a Thursday. So the meeting is called to order, Village of Martin's Editions. Our first is the weather report, first up. And as anybody who's been outside this evening can tell you, it's very cold.
Very cold.
And windy.
Very windy.
Michael.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's staying warm. Cold, cold, go away, no way. Cold's here to stick around for a while, for the rest of the month of January. February is going to be up for grabs. The good news is I don't see any big snowstorms on the horizon. We may get a little snow here on Saturday morning, and that should turn to rain in the afternoon, no big deal. There will probably be a snow scare here for Sunday, but I think most of that right now looks like it's going to remain across southern Maryland. But a little shift in the trajectory of the storm coming up the coast could push, maybe minor accumulations of snow into our area here for Sunday and Sunday night. We'll keep you posted on that. Now, I want to brag a little bit because when I stood up here last month, I predicted that it was going to be 60 degrees on Christmas. Guess what? The warmest day of the whole month of December was Christmas Day. It was 60.
Yeah, good.
And the 70s were common throughout the Ohio Valley all the way out to St. Louis, where on Christmas Day, temperatures got up into the mid-70s. Don't see any of that around here for quite a while. But are there any questions from anybody about the weather?
Any weather related?
Cold.
Okay.
So we can't break ground on Brookville sidewalk until it's above 35 degrees and holding. Is there a chance February will be all right?
Could be, yeah. We could get some warmer weather here. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's going to be that warm, maybe till the end of the month. But and that could be the month, though, we get a lot of snow.
Oh, no.
That's the trade-off on it.
Okay.
Kids will be happy.
We'll be waiting patiently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Keith. We have a handful of residents here. Any issues, questions, comments from residents?
Hi, yes, it's Marty.
Yeah.
And I wanted to thank you for including Ron Bolt's very helpful summary on this proposed state zoning law.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll have a chance to talk about that later, but I know the town of Chevy Chase is, also dealing with this, and I assume that we'll go. Maybe this is a question for Ron Bolt as well as you, Arthur. I assume that we'll do a consolidated response from the Chevy Chase villages in this, because this proposed state legislation undoes more than 100 years of local municipal rights in terms of building codes and setbacks and all that. I mean, it just wipes them out, it looks to me. So, Ron, thank you for doing it. I hope you'll talk about it more later and what residents can do. I know that the town the town's law will get together, but my question is, what else can residents do? Should we call our council representatives our legislative representatives in Annapolis? I mean, so I'm looking for a strategy answer there, and I thank you again for the good summary.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, it'll be coming up momentarily.
The one comment on that, Marty, is it's not just municipal law, it's also county law. County owns the zoning, and it actually undermines county authority as well as municipal authority.
Wow, so it's even worse than I thought. That is stunning to undo 100+ years, 150 years of county law.
Depends on whose viewpoint you take. So let's go on. Committee reports. We have representatives in the person of one person from two committees and Marty. So we have election committee and we have water committee. I know the water committee is having some events about to happen. So Elizabeth, why don't you talk about that? Oh, she just, oh, there you are. Okay, I thought you disappeared.
Hi. Good evening. Well, it's the only thing that's
definite at the moment is a meeting on January 21st, which was going to be the original plan was it was going to be where Bayland, the contractor, would present its draft report to the public, to the residents, for their comment. But because we felt there were so many amendments and suggestions and comments on the first draft, over 115 or something, that we wanted to see how those got incorporated in the draft first before airing it publicly. So the plan now is to have another task force meeting on the 21st of January instead of the public meeting. And then the public meeting, the date is to be set. It was supposed to be February 4th, but one of the task force members has a conflict. So we'll let you know as soon as we can get a day in February that is agreeable to all, to have that public airing of this. Would be, in that case, the second draft. And then that'll probably go to a third draft, before it comes to you, to the council. So that's the plan. That's all I'm aware of at the moment. But we've just started in again as of this week too. And we received today the copy of the second draft. So I haven't looked at it yet, but it's the plan is we're going to do one of these Google document. It's on a SharePoint site. So everybody's going to put their comments in. They can be seen by the entire group. That's the type of editing that we're doing. So that'll go on between now and the 21st. And that's about it.
Okay, I know there's been a lot of conversations about this draft report that was just received today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marty, election committee, you had a meeting.
Yes, thank you. I'm hoping this year will be easy. We have a chance here to put some issues to bed and hopefully have an evergreen set of procedures that we won't need to have any discussions next year. We could just update the dates. So I think that the drafts the committee gave the council at the December meeting, and again, we put a copy in this month's packet too for your convenience. I think they look good. And again, we had a unanimous committee vote to support this document. And I want to especially single out Jean Sperling's comment. We invited the 30-day comment period. We invited resident comments. Jean provided a very useful comment about the past 50 years record of, precedents in our village, and pointed out that there was a pretty absolute boundary on the staff not being involved in issuing ballots for most of those 50 years. And I thought that firsthand documentation was really helpful to the committee in terms of our clarity about what the record here is, what the history is, and why that precedent existed. And certainly, I think it would be good to follow that advice. So thank you, Jean, especially for that very helpful comment. Do we have any questions from the council about any of the edits this year's committee did? Most of them are just housekeeping, just for accuracy or for workability. Any questions, any comments you'd like us to address?
Yeah, there's one that I might as well raise it with you right now. There's two instances, two instances where you want to change from business days to calendar days with the idea of making the period longer. That goes in the wrong direction. So I'm going to suggest that we make, where it's now 10 business days, I'm going to suggest 14 calendar days.
Okay. Let me talk about that for a second. That was a pragmatic.
There's no need to talk about it. Just 14 rather than 10 business days. Okay.
Well, if election day is May 1st, that means that 14 days before that is April 16th, 30 days in April, which is a very tight window because the regs say that the forum should be between the.
I was just following. I was looking at your draft changes, and you said you wanted to move it from 10 business days to 10 calendar days because that would make it longer.
No. We want to have a better window. If you look at the calendar,
right you now, say better window, what does that mean?
Better. The forum needs to be scheduled so that the candidates can attend. And it has to be between April 16th and April
So
30th.
you wanted to have fewer days, not more days.
Right. We wanted to have it has to be at least 10 days before Election Day, which works great if Election Day is May 7th or 8th.
Well, okay,
Election Day is May 1st.
you just very short, very quick. You wanted to make a shorter period, not a longer period.
Right. A shorter period window so that we have a couple of days to schedule the forum.
Okay. Because in the notes that you said you wanted to make it a longer period. Okay.
Oh, I see. No, a wider window to have the forum.
Okay, fine.
A shorter time before the Election Day.
Okay, got it. That's all my questions.
Glad we could clear that up. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it is 10 calendar days.
10 calendar days.
Yeah,
rather
both
than-
those instances.
Right,
14.
okay. Okay. Do we have any comments from community members who are not members of the election committee
So now you're opening it for the public.
for public
forum.
discussion? And we have two other people, Jean Sperling and Wendy Feldman. Since I see no desire for public comment other than what we had, then let us begin the process of reviewing the election committee's draft changes. First of all, our village charter says the election committee shall operate according to rules and procedures adopted by the council. That's what we're doing tonight. We are adopting rules and procedures. We have had, for the last several years, an evolving set of rules and procedures, evolving because of experience and because of perceived needs to make certain policy changes. The council for the last at least 3 years, I know since Andrew was chair, since Katie, thank you. Katie was chair and now me, have consistently asked for an evergreen version. And I'm hoping that today we can make that evergreen version. So I will be going through a number of changes that I have seen in here that were dictated by actual experience, where things were, as Marty was just saying, things were seen to be too short of a period. Yeah.
I just want to note that the packet includes 2 versions of the introduced election regulations. We want to use page 16, which includes several highlighted, in green highlighted sections by Arthur that he specifically wants to comment on.
Right. So a number of changes have been suggested because of operational challenges and problems that were revealed in last year's election. And I wanted to go through those and some obsolete language that got hung in there from before we had mail-in elections, even going back to olden times. So to begin, and these are highlighted in green. What I propose to do is go through those, get council discussion and approval or disapproval, and then move on to the others. So the ones in green will start at the very top, FY 2025, change to 26. I suggest we get rid of the dates altogether. And so we just have VMA election regulations, no need to have a date or a year in there. I see people nodding.
But that's assuming it's an evergreen.
And that's an evergreen.
Yes.
Right. So it would be forevermore, more or less, VMA election regulations. The next one.
Do we need to, should we just vote on each?
We could vote on each or just take it as a package. It's up to you.
There might be items where we disagree.
Okay, so let's vote on that. I move that we move the date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can just get a thumbs up, I'll make the edits right here with my pen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just the headline is, the start is just VMA election regulations. Without a date.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Susan, thumbs up.
Susan, thumbs
Good.
up. Great.
Okay, the next one down the Roman numeral 2, number 2 at the bottom, subject to council approval for absentee balloting. As the election committee noted, this is obsolete language that has survived several previous reviews. So I suggest that we take the committee's suggestion there and delete the phrase. Thumbs up? Okay,
What about the line above that, supervise the operational election work and election contracts? I mean, we need to look at their red lines.
Right.
too, no?
we will come back to that. If anyone wants to,
Green first and then we'll.
Green
come back.
first.
Okay,
and if anyone wants to bring up the others, we'll
Okay.
do that.
green first.
Okay, then we go up to Roman numeral 5. Wait a minute, Roman numeral 6. Where was I?
It's
Page
5
3.
to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roman numeral 5, section 2. The committee is changing the way in which a potential voter can verify their eligibility, and this change reflects those changes in rules. May be required to sign a short form rather than must, because they may have other ways to do this. So that will come up again later. So in light of the election committee's changes in the way they verify the voter roll, I suggest that this accords with that.
Can you
Okay.
say it one more time for me, Arthur? On this line, you want to
Go with what they're recommending.
so remove the must and say
Yeah,
maybe
may,
required.
maybe, right.
Okay.
Okay, we are
Thumbs up on
going
that?
to the election
Thumbs
committee.
up.
We agree.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is Roman numeral 9. This is the 10 business days rather than 10 calendar days. So again, this was found by their experience that they needed to shorten this, it now appears. So I suggest that we go along with that. No less than 10 calendar days before the election day. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay, moving along, Roman numeral 10, down at the bottom,
6 up.
yeah, 6F. This was an issue that came up in the envelopes. If they could not be delivered, who do they get returned to? Where's the return address on the envelope? And they found that a change was needed in this. So they are printing the election committee address as the return address on the envelope. So I say we accept F and G changes.
Okay.
Good. Okay, then moving on, 11, vote counting procedure. I didn't quite understand, but I'm sure there are some good reasons to be held no less than rather than no more than 2 weeks after the election day. Again, this is an operational concern. So I suggest that we adopt that.
No more, no less.
Right. The next one is down.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, that language is
Be
confusing. me.
held no less
No
than.
less than 2 weeks, so it has to be beyond the 2 weeks.
That
At least 2 weeks afterwards. 1 week for the replacement ballots.
At least 2 weeks afterward. Yeah.
Yeah, but generally we've been doing it the last couple of years at 14 or 15 days after election day, as soon as we can within that 2 weeks. You have to give people who get replacement ballots time to receive the replacement ballots, vote it, and get it back before the vote counting.
so it's
No, that, as this
Right.
change works.
Yeah, replacement
No, that-
ballots can be requested up to a week after election day. That's in the regs from way back. And then there's 1 week for the person to get that ballot, vote it, and return it in time to count it, to get it counted. So it's 2 weeks. And we've basically been doing 14 or 15 days, 15. We don't want to prolong the process, but that you have to have at least 2 weeks between date A, election day, and date B, voting day, vote counting day.
2 weeks
Okay.
after.
Okay.
But then should we have an end date, like how far into the future we can do it?
I don't think that's a problem because the election committee wants to have the election over as quickly as we can. So there would be no incentive for the election committee to prolong that process. We just need to make sure that people who get replacement ballots do have time to vote them.
Right.
So that's what the 2 weeks is.
But if it's meant to be evergreen, it might be good to sort of have
You
it
You
clarified.
could say between 2 and 3
Oh,
weeks after
there.
election day.
People like that?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay,
I like that,
yeah,
between 2 and 3 weeks.
yeah. That make, that did, okay.
That covers us operationally. That would work.
Exactly, that covers both. Good, thank you. Good choice. Okay, moving down, in paragraph 4 on the same thing, it said complete the vote, but the election committee was concerned it was just the initial vote. There's going to be several more counts after they go as the process continues. So this just says present any non-machine readable ballots to complete the initial vote count, because there will be more as they look at other ballots that may not be counted on the first row. So thumbs up. Good. Then on in the appendix A, again, this simplifies, send an annual, the committee feels they do not have to send a letter every year to every voter. We have a voter roll, and this considerably simplifies the procedure. So they are crossing out that send an annual notice to each voter. Seems
Fine.
good. And then moving on, still in the appendix, I don't know, next page, section 4E. If there's no response to the committee's outreach effort, right now it says within 30 days, and their suggestion, we don't have to wait that long. How long is it going to take for a voter to get something, to send it back? So they're saying just change that to 21 days. It's a procedural issue that comes up. Moving on the next page, this is where they said voters who are not on the county voter roll and seeking to be added to the VMA roll, so must or may be required, again, for the same reason that we saw earlier, may be required to sign a short election committee form because they have other means also of verifying a voter is an appropriate voter. This is just follows what was done earlier. And I think for me, that's what does it. Now there are, oh no, I'm sorry, there's one more, Appendix B. Again, this changes from 10 business days to 10 calendar days. The very top of calendar B in the last page of this, for same reason. Good, all thumbs up. Now we come back to many of the other recommendations that have been made in here. Many of these have been proposed in previous years, and we went through them and did not approve them in previous years. Now they're returning. And so I would suggest any of my council members who have had several months to review these proposals, if there are any other suggestions that they want to take up to consider, to debate, to review, please feel free to do so.
So, I mean, I just have at the 30,000 foot level, I think the election committee under Marty's leadership has over the years now suggested that the village staff should play no role in the election procedure, or not even the limited role that the village staff plays in this process because of the possible appearance of favoritism for incumbents and incumbency in general. I believe pretty strongly there really hasn't been such an incident, so there's no precedent really, if we want to use that term. But also, what is not to say that members of the election committee could favor a candidate. So I do like the idea of having a little bit of a balance where the election committee does take the leadership role, but the village staff continues to play a role in this process. So for me, striking that is not acceptable. I think keeping that balance, and it's I think worked out quite well over the years, should be maintained. So that's my only reaction to the repeated attempts to change that.
Susan, did you want to say? I had a quick comment, and I'll defer to you if you want to share something.
Thanks, Jeff. I just wanted to say I would second that. That's actually really in line with what I was thinking on this point as well. I think it has been a very effective balance over the years. And that's why we continue to have free and fair elections, as noted in all of the resident comments over the past 20 some years or so that I've been aware of. More than that, actually, but we'll try to. But I also think there's the issue of the managerial oversight of contracts that we have to really be cognizant of and respectful of.
Okay. And also, we have an ethics committee. So if there are any allegations of wrongdoing, there's an ethics committee.
If I could just comment for a minute.
Hold on, Marty.
Okay,
let me just stress. So first of all, I just want to again apologize to the committee and to the council. I just had I didn't have Hermione's potion, and I needed the first couple minutes to take care of something. With that said, I just want to again thank the committee for all their work, Alexa and Arthur for shepherding, through this review, which is very efficient and probably was more efficient than my comment here. But I will just say briefly, I look at it like this, and I am not necessarily opposed to the idea of a committee or a member of the committee at some point in the future to be the person who is also the person who is directly working with the contractor. However, I think I want to use my federal experience in this. I happen to be what's called a grants officer representative, and you have to go through a significant amount of training and a certification. And I happen to have an unlimited warrant, but there are other things that you can do. And in my opinion, in order to, and it gets to Susan's point, in order for anyone, including our manager, whoever, to interface and interact with a contractor, there's a level of verification and diligence and training one must go through. Now, I'm not saying that folks on the current committee may or may not have that, but we don't have a formal VMA process that we've gone through. So I'm saying I'm leaving it open. Maybe in the future, if someone on the committee also goes through separate training on contract or grants management, then I could be open to it. But right now, the person who has that skill and the person who has the authorization to work directly with our contractors is our manager and potentially our assistant manager. So at the moment, I would say this is not for this year because there does need to or would need to be a process where that would occur. And also, frankly, I'm not seeing something that is a burning issue. I mean, I see it as an issue that perhaps, yes, and Jean, I know, is on the line. And I know, again, I want to thank Jean and Alexa. You also brought it to our attention. There was a letter about in the past years, the committee has worked directly. And so I want to take that into consideration. But right now, in the moment, I don't believe that we are prepared to delegate that authority because I believe there's a verification and a training that at least one member of the committee would need to go through when it comes to contracts or grants management that we just haven't been set up for. So I don't support it for this year, but I'm open to listening to it again in a future year.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Alexa?
Try to make this brief. One of the things I've learned sitting here in the council is that unless there really is a problem that needs to be solved, why would we be putting so much attention to it? And my perception is that there hasn't really been a problem, certainly this year, we're talking about this year, that demands such a change as the proposed regs ask for. If that changed, then yeah, I would be very willing, to look at such an issue. But I don't think we're being confronted right now with a actual problem that needs to be resolved. I also like the idea of more of a check and balances, which I think we've established with the current way that the elections are being held, where there's more collaboration, I would hope, between the election committee and the village manager, whoever that will be. And having said that, I also want to really show my respect and admiration for the real care and attention that the election committee has brought to us.
That's very true.
But just because it's legal doesn't mean it has to be in writing or codified. It has to be respected in proportion to what is needed. So I think we should continue with what we've been doing.
Can I just add also my gratefulness to the election committee and under your leadership, Marty. I know how much work has gone into it. So thank you very much, and also for the liaison for taking on that job. I feel like the last couple of years, and Marty, I know you would like to speak. We've heard the arguments,
Very much.
and yet the council has repeatedly decided not to go forward. So unless there's a new argument to be made, Marty, I think we've heard your reasoning, and I think we've just decided not to move forward. And it sounds like the council feels similarly this year. And I think it's a robust, almost completely evergreen election, reg. So I think we're in a great place.
One other point, before turning the floor back to the committee for a few moments. One of the subjects that was highlighted was the possibility of write-in candidates winning an election when there are insufficient number of nominations to fill vacant seats. I have discussed this with one other council member, but I would like to ask my council members if we should ask Ron, pick your head up, Ron, perk your ears up. If we want to contemplate alternative methods to deal with the situation, if the number of nominees is fewer than the number of open seats. Other jurisdictions around us have adopted some regulations to deal with that. I'm aware of at least one. Do the council want Ron to come up with other things to deal with this potential situation? Just to consider at the moment, just to bring up some alternatives that we may or may not want to adopt at a later point.
For future years?
For the future, yeah.
Yeah, more information.
Okay, Ron?
No such thing as bad information.
Right.
Yeah,
Ron?
are you asking for that now, or you want to?
No. At the next meeting to be considered in coming. So
Okay.
to review local municipalities as well as what places in Arizona or New Mexico or do a wide-ranging review to see if this is an issue, whether and how others may have dealt with it.
Yeah.
My question on this red line here is that not obvious what is being described here?
Yes, it's been latent in the rules ever since we've had the elections for the last 40 years. Yeah,
And
it's been latent
Which
here.
section are you talking about, Andrew?
I'm sorry, it's rule
it's
3, number 9.
Expressed explicitly that this exists, but
Top of page 2 about write-in candidacy.
right. In fact, there are an infinite number of latent issues here.
Yeah.
The number, for example, there's no
right.
limit on the number of nominations that may be made.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's kind of like an obvious thing, but it's good to have it spelled out.
right.
So are we accepting this edited version?
I'd say no. I mean, it's there. It's been there. It's been there for 40 years. There's no. there's an infinite number of things that are there in the rules that we don't spell out, possibilities.
Yeah,
I don't see the need
I
to,
mean, there are blank lines for writing candidates, and if writing candidates
That's-
get the most votes or more than another candidate, they're
Right.
elected. I mean, it's.
yeah. I mean, that's gonna be true whether there's,
Right.
whether there's
Yeah.
a sufficient number. So I don't think we need to address it in these regulations. It's
I
there.
think it's pretty obvious.
Okay, Susan, I don't see, okay, no hands up. So I will then move to adopt the regulations, the election regulations for this and future years as agreed to by as the changes agreed to by the council tonight. And you have those changes. So I so move. We need a second.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Susan's hand is up.
I want to, if I may, Arthur, this is
Yes.
Marty.
Go
I
ahead,
wanna-
Marty.
I want to thank you for your respect for the committee and for our very careful due diligence on this. I will note that if the regulations continue to include the village manager as having a role in the chain of command to issue the ballots, that will require some improvement in terms of the efficiency of the process. The committee last year documented and reported that there were repeated problems with delayed responses from Electech, incomplete responses from Electech, and inaccurate and incorrect responses, that it was not a smooth process. And that, of course, is in our committee report in December and again this month. So I think that is something that the committee can work with Michael to improve in terms of, well, simple things that are really pretty basic. If the election ballot is not correct, the election is invalid. That's right there, invalidates an election. It's a pretty important thing. And last year, it took 4 rounds to get Electech to follow the simple instructions the committee gave Michael to give to Electech. And that wasn't Michael's fault. Michael was very diligent about going back to the
Good, Marty,
contractor.
I trust that you and the committee will work carefully with Michael on these issues. So now that we have the experience from last year and previous years, every year is going to be a little better.
I hope so, because it was extremely stressful last year for the committee and very time consuming to keep going back through Michael, back and forth, up and down the chain of command to get the most simple, basic tasks accomplished. It was not an efficient process at all. And that efficiency argument does wear and tear on the committee. We have a lot of work to
Okay.
do.
Well,
So
I
I'll
hope-
work with Michael
We
on
will
that.
work to try to make that smoother. I see Elizabeth's hands up.
You're muted.
I know,
Unmute.
I know.
There you go.
I had
You're-
my computer just died, so that's why I faded out. I just wanted to say, when I was listening, thank you all for sharing your comments. I still feel there's a misunderstanding between contract management and the actual content management, if you will. So it's always very clear that Michael does the contract management. So, you know, and the follow-up, that the contract is successfully implemented and, you know, finished according to the terms. I don't think that's ever been the issue. The issue is and also the information back and forth with him, you know, that there was never an intention that he would be out of the loop completely 100%. It was copying on those technical, not financial, but the technical nitty-gritty, you know, regulations having to do with ballot management. That was the part that, for reasons of efficiency primarily, to eliminate more delays, plus the fact of arm's length, those were the 2 reasons. So that's all. I accept your decision on that, but I just want to make sure there wasn't a gross misunderstanding, because it sounded like that was the case, and that isn't the intent of the
Okay.
what's written there. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, that was really extremely helpful the way you laid that out. In fact, I meant to mention something like that when I made my first comment about the contract management and also the idea of training and being open to the future of someone. And so what we have, again, at the federal level, we have what we call subject matter experts. right? And then the GOR or the contract folks who are responsible. And so we are, at least I'm on the same page as you, but I think it's important. And again, we're already past, but I think because the committee worked so hard, I just want to, clarify the things that are being struck out. I'll give an example. Page 4, under Roman numeral, oh gosh, I'm not good with my Roman numerals. 6, 8, where it says the committee shall, and it says instruct the village manager to direct, and then it was struck out, right, to direct the contractor. So I just want to be very clear. While I appreciate what you're saying, that strikeout is not subject matter expertise. That is actual contractual management. So I think we're on the same page around the idea of what the committee does, which is subject matter expertise and working with Michael, who manages the contracts, and that there are real important semantics around the idea of SMEs directing contractors. So again, in the future, I think if there's open interpretation, and in future years where members of the council, there is a training set up where someone on the committee could actually have training in managing contracts, I wouldn't have an issue. But that's how things were being struck out. It was actually interpreting as contract management, and that was not where I felt comfortable for this year.
Okay, good. I hope we now have an evergreen set of regulations. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron, there you are. The governor is proposing a set of new housing regulations. What's going on?
Yes, okay, so Governor Moore held a press conference on January 6th to announce the redevelopment of the Capitol Heights Metro Station in Prince George's County, and at that press conference also announced his housing initiatives for the current legislative session, which is just underway. He named 3 acts: the Starter and Silver Homes Act of 2026, the Maryland Transit and Housing Opportunity Act, and the Housing Certainty Act. The latter 2 have not yet been dropped in the hopper, but we do have a copy of the first one. All 3 of those laws were announced with the following talking points. 1, Maryland has a housing shortage of approximately 100,000 units. 2, Maryland is growing too slowly, and that is driving budget deficits at the state level. 3, the cost of living is too high for many Marylanders. And 4, the state has over 300 acres of land adjacent to transit that could be transformed into housing and economic hubs if local barriers can be removed. And barriers is a term that is restated quite often in combination or in connection with all 3 of these laws. So I'll start with the Starter and Silver Homes Act. So that's the one we know the most about so far, because that one is publicly available. It has been signed Senate and House bill numbers. So there, the governor's identified that there are barriers to home ownership, and that's because housing stock has decreased by 64% between 2015 and 2022 because high interest rates are locking out new generations of home buyers, according to the governor. So the proposal in this act is to basically add more stock, and that's done by removing regulatory barriers at the local level in the form of building regulations and zoning. So anywhere in the state where single family homes are possible in that zone, these new rules from this act would apply. The minimum lot size would be reduced to 5,000 square feet. So for example, right now in Martin's Additions, the county says in the R60 zone, including in Martin's Additions, the minimum lot size is 6,000. So this law would say it's 5,000 and the county can't choose a different number. It would also prohibit lot coverage maximums. So right now, the county says lot coverage can't exceed 30%. So that limit would be unenforceable. And that's a limit as to how many buildings, how much footprint of buildings can comprise a lot. Next, it would reduce the minimum setbacks. So the front setback right now at the county and at the village level is 25 feet or the established building line, whichever is greater. That would be reduced to 10 feet. And the side setback in the county 7 and the village is 8 would be reduced to 5. And the rear setback of 20 would be reduced to 10. Also, townhouses would be defined as single-family homes and would be allowed regardless of whether local zoning allows townhouses. So right now, townhouses are not allowed in R60 zone unless, according to the recently adopted county law that you're all familiar with, the workforce housing legislation, there a row of townhomes could be constructed in the village if one workforce housing unit was created for a row of 3. And the workforce housing unit would be affordable for, to encourage workforce to be able to live where they work. But this law would eliminate the requirements to have any sort of optional method development or special rules. The townhomes would be allowed as a matter of right. So the county's developers would not have to comply with the county's workforce housing law. Next, it would prohibit regulation of design elements, which could perhaps be argued to be like a wall plane length or wall plate height restrictions. And then finally, it would prohibit any standards that indirectly prohibit townhouses in single-family zones. So that's the Starter and Silver Homes Act. I will say that this is how it's currently written in its very first draft. We don't know what traction it will have. We don't know what amendments would take place over the course of the legislative session. I expect that there would be amendments. As you'll recall, in 2024, with the governor's Housing Expansion and Affordability Act, that proposal went through several amendments, one of which was to provide an exemption for existing single-family neighborhoods. That law said, local regulations cannot unreasonably interfere with a multifamily development such that it detracts from its viability. The village is currently exempt from that one because of the amendment that it went in to exempt single-family homes. Any questions on that one before I talk about the next two?
Ron, very briefly, it's Jeff. My quick question is, so I know you mentioned that there are the numbers assigned, right? But where is this in terms of the spaghetti making? I mean, is this something that is now I have all sorts of thoughts around whether or not they should get a new chief of staff to allow this to even hit the press. But my question is, where is this between now and when it actually gets to a floor for consideration? Is this like you're letting us know, but there's a real good chance there'll be modifications, or that you feel that this is something that could hit the floor the way it is, if it hasn't already?
So great question. So it's been scheduled for first reading and will be assigned to a committee at the Senate level and at the House level. And the committee will discuss it. So there's an opportunity to provide comments to the committee members. And the committee, if they think it's ready for the floor, would vote on it, perhaps after amending it themselves. And they have to send it to the other General Assembly body for crossover before it would go to the floor for a full vote. And so it's quite possible, as I'm sure you know, a lot of bills die in committee because the committee doesn't feel it's ready, or there's too much opposition, too many amendments to work through, etc. So where it stands now is it just dropped. The session starts today or tomorrow. And yeah, so, it's sitting with the committees, and if we want, we can start engaging with the committee members, our senators and our delegates, and, provide comments. And we're going to schedule a conference call with the neighboring municipalities and talk through this as a group, and see if there's a letter we might want to submit as a group, as we did last year with our housing bill.
Andrew,
Ron, Andrew here. Two quick follow-ups. Presumably, we know which committee, like a housing committee or something.
Yes.
Right. Are any of our senators on those? Okay, I'm getting a nod here from Michael.
Yes. Yeah. So I just
Or-
researched that maybe an hour ago. So
Okay.
at the Senate level, it's been assigned to the Education, Energy, and Environment Committee. And there are 3 Montgomery County representatives on that committee, including the chair and vice chair. So
Okay.
Brian Feldman is the chair. He's out of Poolesville. Well, his district includes Poolesville. And the vice chair is Cheryl Kagan, whose district includes Rockville and Gaithersburg. So those 3 jurisdictions are impacted, of course. And then Katie Hester, whose district includes Damascus, is on that committee as well. And then at the House level, it's been assigned to the Economic Matters Committee, and there are 3 Montgomery County reps on that committee as well, including the vice chair, Laurig Charnunian, whose district includes Silver Spring and Tacoma Park. And then,
Okay. So I guess my follow-up is, I'm not sure, I'm no a parliamentarian in matters related to Annapolis, but is in the Senate, do they require, like in the US Senate, unanimous consent? Or is it
you get out of committee?
to schedule a floor vote, do you need unanimous consent or not?
no. So the chair of each committee sets the agenda and will decide whether the committee will vote it out of committee. Once the chair decides it's ready for a vote, then it just needs a majority vote at the House to get through. And the Senate rule is slightly different, and I forget it. I'll have to let you know about that.
Yeah, and then it just gets scheduled. The majority schedules it for floor.
Well, then it crosses over to the other house, but because this bill is cross-filed, the crossover is really
Right.
procedural. If it leaves both houses, then I would expect it to make the floor.
But this is a long way between here and getting it out of committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it might not even make it out of the committees. We don't know yet. We have to talk to our senators and our delegates and
Yeah.
get their
Yeah.
reading on it.
Things like that in the Senate. There.
Okay, go on, Rod.
Okay, so the next one is the Maryland Transit and Housing Opportunity Act. And there, the barriers are basically deemed parking requirements and zoning restrictions. We haven't seen the law yet, but from the governor's PowerPoint presentation, we understand that the goal here is to eliminate on-site parking minimums when land is within a quarter mile from transit, and also to allow mixed-use development or commercial development in order to, make that development more viable, more attractive, I think. And then also that act will aim to give the state greater latitude to develop land that the state owns.
So this would not directly affect Martin's Additions.
Yeah, only land that's a quarter mile from transit hubs.
Good, okay.
And then, the Housing Certainty Act doesn't really affect Martin's Additions either. There, the barrier that's identified is local planning requirements that may change over the course of project study. So there, the goal would be if an applicant has a development application, the regulations would be locked in at the time that they apply. So projects get vested rights and planning rules can't change on them over time. And it also seeks to allow the developers to pay impact fees for their development after construction is done rather than with the application.
Okay.
So yeah, don't expect that one to have
So-
a big bearing on the
So
bill.
Ron, what's the scuttlebutt on why this is coming out at this time? Is this an attempt to compete with the California governor?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I think generally there's a nationwide housing shortage. And,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, and if
And
this-
zoning is generally designated as one of the key reasons for it.
yeah, right. That single family zoning is problematic. And
Yeah.
that's hot button issue.
Right.
So I'm sorry, Ryan, were there four? You mentioned three. I
There are
think.
Three. Those are
Three.
just those three.
Right. So it's the first one that you talked about that affects
Yeah.
us most directly.
Yeah. And
Okay. So we'll be keeping our eye on it. So you are scheduling a joint meeting with all of your clients.
right. Yeah. And we're asking the manager and the mayor or chair, or maybe one other council member of each jurisdiction to attend.
Good.
We can't have too many people on the call, and we can't have a quorum, or it would have to be an open meeting.
Right. Okay. Okay. Any questions, observations that are already made?
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'll make it short. I guess the one, and Ron, you don't have to have the answers. It was just more of a, Annapolis isn't far, so I guess it would be interesting to know the rules of when the committees are meeting. I know we talked about a letter, but can someone actually go as lobbyist and actually speak in front of the committee at this point to provide input rather than the idea of just a letter? I think in person makes a lot of sense, and having folks show up in Annapolis, I think would be very beneficial if that is possible. And there may be other ways of getting input, but I think that would be useful. And I guess the only other comment is, there are things that are concerning, but they're not surprising, because I was at that MML discussion 2 summers ago that was actually on housing. So this reflects, Ron, what you shared was this idea that, single family zoning is the downfall of the American dream. And that's not hyperbole. There were things that were actually said that were more aggressive during that discussion. And so this is not a surprising thing. I think the question is, doing this in a way that is responsive to what is the problem and what is the solution, right? Is this an idea that there needs to be more affordable housing, attainable housing? Is it about economic development? There was, I remember, a slide that was like the answer to economic growth within the state. It said build, build, build. So, I think that may be less of really what matters in terms of what we're seeing here. But what I'm saying is this is not surprising. I think the real question then becomes in the mechanics of the parliamentary, as my esteemed colleague to my left had mentioned, what are some of the ways of providing responsible input around what's being proposed, and have a dialogue and discussion, because clearly this is, like, from their perspective, like the penultimate. But just like when the county had come out with their initial plans that were also, I think, at this level just as aggressive and just as alarming to those who were concerned, this is like taking it on steroids. So as long as there's an opportunity to provide input, I think the idea is, okay, well, it looks like there is going to be some aggressive new proposals, but the question is, what could we do to have input so that they don't turn into something that will completely upend and eviscerate, what the village is today.
Okay. Good. Okay. We'll be hearing more about this in the future. So stand by, stay tuned. Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Sure, absolutely.
Michael, manager's report.
Yes, thank you. It is 8:30 p.m. and my report is the written report is on page 29 of your packet tonight. First, I just want to thank Erin for holding down the fort here while I was gone. She did a great job.
Good.
And I had a good vacation. So
Good.
and the second point, I returned to a disaster of trash blowing around the entire neighborhood. And I think I counted over 50 different individuals that contacted me to let me know that the trash hadn't been collected on Saturday. So apologies for the inconvenience. We were able to get that all cleaned up on Monday, but it was quite a return of a shock. And then once it's cleaned up, I don't hear anything, not a single cricket out of anyone. So that's par for the course. The third point is I will be posting, and this is related, I will be posting RFPs for our waste, recycling, and yard waste collection services. That contract with Waste Management is up as of June 30th. So I will have to go, this is our biggest contract. It's about $150,000 a year just for your trash collection. So I will be posting that RFP, and that's also an opportunity to think about if we want to make some changes to the overall service that we provide. You know, I'm very proud of the level of service we provide. It's way above and beyond what other neighborhoods get and what the county provides as far as waste management. But do we want to move bulk trash to once a month instead of every other month? Do we want to, we could think about other types of options. I've also had a conversation with the CEO of A Wider Circle, which does furniture collection, and several other communities already provide the day before bulk trash or the day of bulk trash. They will actually send around their collection truck. There's a perception right now that the Wider Circle cannot send their box trucks down our streets because there's some signs on Brookville Road that say no through traffic for trucks, no trucks welcome. So they have actually been declining people's call when they said, I have a good piece of furniture, come pick it up. But I'm in the Leadership Montgomery program with their executive director of the Wider Circle. And they said that's actually not the case. But they do have, a lot of collections to make. So if they're going to come to an area, they want to make sure it's worth it. So there's some opportunities there that we could look into about combining those services or lining up our bulk trash days on the same time as neighboring communities. That way A Wider Circle could come in and do a sweep before bulk trash comes in.
Good idea.
So there's some opportunities for some improvement there, but we will be posting that contract again, and then we'll have an opportunity to consider the different bids that we receive. Getting bids is the hardest part, but there are other services, and most of our neighboring communities do not use waste management, they use somebody else. So
I was gonna say one other option is the possibility of recycling twice a week. I see so much stuff like not in recycling bins. So clearly people have a lot of
Amazon boxes.
Yeah, just a ton of those. But
lots
anyway,
of boxes.
another thing to talk about.
Absolutely. And one of the hard parts about our contract is we require side of house collection for trash. A lot of the companies don't provide that service because that's a lot more man labor. So there's some trade-offs there. You're going to get fewer bids if you do that, if you offer that, versus if you don't offer that, you're going to get a lot more bids and probably more affordable bids. So there's some things to think about there. But I'll be posting that along with our arborist. I know we've been talking about our arborist contract. That is also up. So I will be posting both of those to the terrible state website for RFPs. The fourth thing is we raised $11,740 in donations for our holiday fund this year. That is a record. And those checks were distributed to our waste management personnel. And as always, they want to express their gratitude to this community for doing that. That is really generous. So even in a bad economy, people are really giving and generous here. That says a lot about this community. We have been confirming residents' contact information. If your contact information has changed, if you have a new cell phone you would like to give me, you can do that. I will be, by the end of the month, wrapping that project up and reprinting the resident directories. You'll remember that we decided to do it every year. Waiting 2 years was just too long and we were losing track of stuff. So we're just going to do it every year. And we upped our budget for printing and mailing in order to do that. So that is on its way and I'm working on that right now. Brookville sidewalk. We have received our permit from the county. We had received our permit from the state, and then they had a really complicated workaround with the stormwater requirements that they told us there was no way around. We had to go through this long process. It took us almost a year to get through that process. They finally approved the workaround. And then the county said, that's not possible. You can't do this workaround. So we went back to the state and they said, you know what? We'll waive it. You don't have to do any of that. So they waived it. We got the waiver from the state finally before the end of the year. And the county was able to turn around and issue our permit within the last 2 weeks. So the state took us 4 years to work on and get that, and the county took 2 weeks. So I don't know what that says, but that was my experience working through those two systems.
Says they shouldn't be introducing bills on.
Yeah,
100%.
focus on services.
Yeah, good point, Jeff. So we have our permit, and we have held our pre-construction meetings, both with the state and with the county. The county's pre-construction meeting was this morning. They said totally no problem. You're all green lights. Go ahead and start. One thing holding us back from starting is it has to be 35 degrees at holding. That means 35 degrees at night in order to break ground. That's not in the next 10 days. The contractor currently has a goal of start date on February 9th. So that's a target date, and that might get pushed back if it's still cold on February 9th. In the meantime, we'll be rolling out our communication plans. I'm scheduling meetings with the neighboring municipalities to discuss what it's going to look like with them. And we'll also be, figuring out some final details. Where's the porta potty going to go during construction for the workers? What bricks are we going to use on the side of the retaining wall that we're building at the corner of Raymond? All of those types of details have to be worked out, so we can work on those things while we wait for the warm weather. Any questions on Brookville sidewalk?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're so close. Okay, moving on. Number 7. I have requested a quote to paint the curbs around fire hydrants that was talked about a month ago or so. And I have a meeting with the contractor that Section 3 used to paint their intersections. And that meeting is scheduled for next week. So I'm hoping to get a reasonable bid and be able to move forward with that relatively quickly. The council approved a traffic study for Cummings Lane and Shepherd Street a number of months ago. That was delayed because there was some construction work happening at the end of Cummings, and we didn't want to study traffic when it was an abnormal pattern. So now we're trying to reschedule that. That's coming soon. And the two things that I'm going to keep saying until I get them done is, 1, I'm attempting to add a street light to Brookville Road, and 2, I am attempting to get parking enforcement from the county.
Where's the light? Where's the light?
It is a dark spot between Cummings and Raymond.
Every time Susan and I walk home from here down, all of a sudden you're like in darkness. And there's a pole right there. So it's
And I
very convenient.
thought the streetlights on the Section 3 side would fix it once they replace their streetlights with their process of, but they're actually not replacing the lights along Brookville Road because they don't want to claim that they own those. They're trying to say that the State Highway Administration owns those streetlights and they are not responsible for them. So they're in that fight, and I'm just going to request a light. It's not that expensive to add a light. We replaced all of our lights a number of years ago, and I think that was Matt Trollinger that did that for this community. And then there was 2 that were missed.
Somehow they skipped 2. They just walked by them.
Yeah. So I went ahead and replaced those 2, and I think it's like $2,500 a street light if there's a pole there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So
And that cost is because.
we're buying the actual light,
Yeah.
and they design it, modeled it off of ours, so it's the same wattage and all of that stuff. Our lights are not the standard wattage. They're and they're not the standard design. They look nice.
We ordered them, originally had them designed by the company. There was one, we had the prototype sitting in here for about a year before we actually mounted it.
So next time you're walking around the neighborhood, look up and look at your street light and realize that's because you live in Martin's Addition, so you have those nice
It's
lights.
definitely become brighter. I know we have one right in front of our house, so it's good.
And the electricity cost fell by 95%.
Amazing.
The auditors,
Wish I could get that for my house.
right, the auditors questioned that. They said, have you moved a decimal point here? They said, no, the cost of electricity is down.
So that concludes my report. Unless there are any questions.
Thank you.
Magnificent. I do have one little comment. I'll say it for the record while we're here is, first of all, I want to thank you. And when I share this, this is not me per se that is asking for this, but the messages that you share and send out by text, awesome. I think very helpful. Normatively, I believe, whether it's private company or even other public, when that happens, typically there would be an option to opt in or cancel. And I share that in that I think there's always folks who don't want to receive that. And you may want to, I don't think, like I said, it's not like folks called with the idea that the house is burning, but you may want to put that in. I think it's just a normative thing. If folks don't want to get messages, they don't have to be forced to get them.
That's a good reminder. Actually, there is a way for me to create that text stop to opt out of
Right.
text messages. I just haven't done that.
I mean, technically someone could, but
you would,
I would just put it as
you
a
can
feature.
opt out actually, but I should describe it and put a little sentence there at the end. That's a good point.
Just, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Turning to the minutes with that were AI generated, how much editing did you have to do on
A
this?
lot.
A lot. Okay, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah. The AI minutes aren't the best. I've been playing around with it though. That's me using this tool that I learned about that's specifically meant for local governments. It's
Right.
called GovAI.
Yeah.
And that's the one I've been using. It's okay, but it doesn't remember any of my prompts from the previous time. So
Oh.
I tell it, I want this format and here are the council members. And, I tell it all these things and here are the names of the people that have attended the meeting. And then it doesn't actually remember any of that the next time I try to do it. So I have to do it all over again. But it, it's probably faster than me writing it myself, but
Okay.
not by much.
Okay, we've had a chance to look at it. I move that we accept the more or less partially automated minutes from the last meeting. Second, and aye. Good.
Aye.
Want to have a oral treasurer's report?
I would be delighted. So just reminding everyone that the monthly report is not a legal requirement. We do it for good fiscal management and transparency, and with various things with holidays and leave schedules. We didn't have a chance to do the formal monthly written, but I did review all the reports that were prepared. Michael, thank you very much. And the accountant, wherever they are, thank you. No anomalies, nothing out of the ordinary. We are looking
Continuing to
magnificent
look.
for the year so far.
Good. Good. That brings us to residents' comments. Is that a hand up for George there?
Yes.
Although that's the
no.
cursor.
Whoops.
Okay, do we have any hands up for among the two residents? Marty has a hand up.
Yes, hi, thank you again.
There's
On
another-
the tree management contract with Mulherron, I've noticed, and some of you have noticed as well, that Mulherron doesn't seem to be very efficient in terms of grouping jobs. They seem to come like on a case-by-case basis. And from my experience as a longtime manager, that tends to be a lot more expensive than having a plan for tree care. We talked at the last council meeting about doing like winter pruning and having a plan for winter pruning. And I would ask Michael to think about that and the council to think about that when you're looking at the tree contract and maybe put it into the RFP, because having Mulherron send out a whole crew to do a job one at a time when there are 3 other jobs maybe even on the same street that'll need to be done in a week or two just strikes me as an economist as being incredibly inefficient. And I know Mulherron is not cheap. So I think there's a lot more efficient way to organize the tree work, and I hope Michael and the council will take that into account. On the sidewalk project, Michael, thank you for all of your persistence on this. I know it has been just like pulling teeth, and I commend you for hanging in there and finally getting it done. And I want to thank the council for listening to the election committee. We will do our best to do a good election this year. I am concerned about having the manager involved in issuing ballots because, as Gene Sperling's letter said, that had not been the standard for 50 years. We had the manager and the staff stay strictly out of issuing ballots, and now the council has decided to keep Michael in that process. I do hope that we will be able to do it with a lot less time wasted and a lot less mistakes on the contractor's part in the coming year. And I will do my best to make sure that our committee works with Michael to make sure that happens. Anyway, that's it for now.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it seems like I don't see any other hands up. So with that, unless we have any other comments, analyses, advice from my council members, I will adjourn this.
No,
What?
close.
Okay. Oh, that's right. The sequence. We are about to enter closed meeting to consider personnel matters. And so we will, do we close this meeting and
Yes.
then? That's what okay, so we will.
Oh, Ron, you're muted. Ron's muted, but he
The
wants to say
motion
something.
needs to take place in open session.
Yeah,
Okay,
so say that again. The motion to move into closed session takes place in open session.
Correct.
Okay. I move that we move to go into closed session to consider personnel issues.
I
And
second.
you have to cite the statute 3305 B1 regarding a personnel matter affecting one or more specific individuals
Yes,
over
that
whom the village has jurisdiction.
yes. 3-305B employee review personnel discussion. Good. Out of the
Yeah, and you
many
sign that form.
possibilities. Okay. Which I have.
Ron has to help us with this every single
That's right,
time.
don't forget your sign. Don't forget
Okay.
your signature. Oh, it's signed.
I signed it.
It's signed.
And Michael has to post that on the website for 3 years at least.
I will.
And
And I guess you don't need me for this, is that correct?
That's
That's
right.
correct.
All right.
Good night.
So we have
Have a good night,
everyone
everybody.
voted.
Everyone voted.
Everyone voted aye.
Great. I'm gonna stop the recording.